Alright nerds, the latest Nintendo Direct Partner Showcase was actually one of my favorites, thanks to a spread of third-party announcements that ranged from platformers to RPGs. One title really stood out because it seemed to include both of those aspects, and it actually quickly became my personal favorite of the show, and that is The Adventures of Elliot, the Millennium Tales. This new HD 2D venture from Square Enix shifts to an action platforming format, which contrasts with what many people associate with this presentation style. My curiosity got the better of me, so I turned on my Switch 2 to play the exclusive demo and find out firsthand. And after combing through every inch of this early build, I'm pretty thrilled to have just experienced what could be one of my favorite Square games ever made. But let's get more into that in this preview. The Adventures of Elliot, the Millennium Tales takes place in the world of Philadelphia. In this setting, a period known as the Age of Myths has long since passed and humans have begun to document their history. Beasts that live in their own tribes are fighting for territory while humans hide in relative safety in a corner of the realm protected by the princess. This story begins in the kingdom of Huther, where the protagonist, an adventurer named Elliot, is asked by the royal family to investigate newly discovered ruins for potential magical secrets. Elliot accepts the mission eagerly, leaning into the notion of adventuring with zero hesitation. The gameplay here takes center stage in the demo, and while the next point may sound like an exaggeration, I assure you that it's not. The Adventures of Elliot, the Millennium Tales feels like it was made for me. Almost every facet of the design clicks on a cathartic level that is hard to overstate. Before getting ahead of myself though, let's get into the systems. The demo allows you to explore Hubtown and some general other areas that include enemies, treasure chests, and optional challenge areas, along with a required dungeon. For a demo, the amount of content here is pretty impressive. Elliot is controlled with the left stick and can equip 2 weapons at once. He can guard with the shield and use the abilities of his companion fairy named Faye, as she is controlled independently with the right stick. The main loop of gameplay is adventure in a distilled form. Outside the kingdom walls, you can pick up from several optional pathways and dungeons, each with notable rewards such as Magicite, which are equipable abilities that enhance specific weapons. A clear main objective is marked on the map, but you can also just ignore all of that and explore the areas for upgrades that sell the fantasy of Elliot's life. That sense of going off on your own to prepare before the critical task lands extremely well here. Elliot's controls are straightforward and his weapons incentivize different playstyles. The default blade has a single slash and a charge attack that can adapt to many situations. The bow on the other hand is ideal for ranged targets and general scouting. These tools already feel satisfying thanks to their responsive inputs and a solid sense of impact, but my 2 favorite weapons in the demo are the bombs and the scythe chain. The bombs work like you might expect if you've played many Zelda titles. Pulling one out starts a brief charge and you need to time the throw to strike enemies at the right moment. Shielded enemies are especially vulnerable to well-placed bombs, and destructible walls hide secret paths that reward careful observation. I'll be honest, tossing a bomb into a group never stopped being thrilling during my experience, especially when it turns a risky pull into a quick cleanup. The scythe chain is the most unconventional weapon in the toolkit. Holding the attack button charges the weapon and a whirling chain encircles Elliot, creating a circular radius that is terrific when you're surrounded. Now, releasing the button after the charge sends a distant strike that yanks foes towards you. It is a multifaceted tool that asks for a bit more finesse and spatial awareness than the others, yet it becomes one of the best once you learn its spacing. Magicite deepens that nuance. One example increases damage dealt to enemies from behind, which pairs well with the scythe chain's multi-directional coverage. Perfect guarding with your shield adds another layer, rewarding precise timing with a satisfying turn of momentum. At first glance, the enemy and combat design may be a little too simple. It's as if button mashing would carry you through all of these, but that simplicity is there to let you grasp the essentials before the challenge grows. When you deal with multiple enemy types that prompt different approaches, while terrain and hazards press for attention at the same time, the pressure ramps up quickly. The couple of bosses in this demo are on the forgiving side because of the clear window where they are vulnerable, but reaching those openings still takes a little bit of work. For instance, the final boss in particular killer might take a few tries if you push the fight without preparing. My biggest combat critique is the bow's aiming. It just feels messy. I missed more shots than I expected on trajectories that seemed correct. A clearer reticle or a minor adjustment to trajectory communication would help here. Exploration is the other pillar of the Adventures of Elliot. The starting town is compact, yet it splinters into side paths that reward curiosity with meaningful finds, which actually sets the expectations early on. The game values players who step off the main road to hunt for secrets before pushing the mandatory objective. The best way that I can describe this exploration is by pointing to the layered compact delight of Falcom's Zwei titles and The Legend of Nayuta Boundless Trails. And then there's plenty of the mana games that also have this design. These inspiration philosophies echo across rapid puzzling and platforming, item-specific scenarios, and small areas that connect into a wider fabric. The result is a play rhythm that calls back to those series while feeling still unique. Progression follows a blueprint that reminds me of older top-down Zelda games, which is one of my favorite eras of the series. Right now, the game is hitting on a particular specific blend of platforming, RPG growth, and action combat. It speaks to tastes I have carried since childhood, and the demo channels that space without feeling like empty homage. Movement is another important factor here. Elliot has a normal jump, and Faye supplies 2 mobility skills. One is a brief rapid dash that takes some getting used to, and the other warps Elliot to wherever Faye is positioned. Because Faye is controllable on her own, this opens neat possibilities. She can't stray far beyond your current elevation, so the warp is the best for long horizontal gaps and precise repositioning. The demo puts this warp to excellent use by demanding spatial awareness and quick reactions across platforming sequences and combat arenas. Dungeons are involved and distinct. Each one carries its own look, puzzle ideas, and difficulty tuning. Outside of them, you will find mini areas that serve as focused challenges, often centered on movement or combat. The handful of these rooms in the demo are memorable and hit a middle ground that is both welcoming and thought-provoking. My one dungeon gripe is actually the enemy respawns. Enemies appear to return on every room transition, and the speed at which they can flood the screen should be dialed back a little. It keeps the pace lively, but it occasionally replaces progress with churn. But if I haven't made it already clear, I'm actually in love with the Adventures of Elliot, the Millennium Tales right now. This action RPG, frequently sprinkled with platforming, feels like a dream project I didn't expect to actually play. The fusion of Falcom's early platforming and combat sensibilities from Ys, Zwei, and Nayuta with the roots of Square's Mana series creates something that sits squarely in my wheelhouse. I should also mention that the demo respects your time. You can chase Magicite and secrets, practice with specific weapons, and route a clean dungeon run, or you can just push the objective and sample the core loop in a tight session. Either way, the feedback is immediate. Perfect guards snap the tempo into place, the scythe chain hands you a clear role in crowd management, bombs add timing pressure that never feels cheap. Even when I lost a fight or misjudged a jump, I understood why. There are still questions. The narrative and character work are only sketched in this build, and the bow needs some attention. Respawns also need tuning, but none of that dims the potential sparkle that's on display here. The way that exploration, movement, and combat feed each other already feels cohesive, and that's the part I care about most in a game built around adventure. If you have a Switch 2, I wholeheartedly recommend trying this demo out. It's a strong proof of concept that shows where the team is aiming and how well the mechanics already interlock. If the full game can maintain this balance while deepening encounter variety, dungeon ideas, and build expression through Magicite, Square could have something special. The Adventures of Elliot, the Millennium Tales is planned to be released in 2026 for Nintendo Switch 2, PlayStation 5, Xbox Series, and PC via Steam. And based on this demo, I'm ready to play the finished version the day that it releases. Until then, I'll be thinking about the new routing ideas and whether the scythe chain will remain my favorite tool once the full arsenal unlocks. Either way, I'm already eager to head back into Philadelphia and see what the other secrets its corners are hiding. Thanks for watching. This video is brought to you by our supporters on Patreon. Noisy Pixel is run by a group of gamers providing independent gaming coverage through news, reviews, previews, and more. Check out our Patreon to help support our continued growth, and subscribe to keep up with all our future content.
Noisy Pixel.